Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of April 26th. I'm Ryan Miller, and
Mortal Kombat!
I guess that song still counts. They redid it for this week's movie on Book Club for Movies, where we talk about one movie a week, and you can too. You can talk about one movie a week.
That's it. But do not ever
Follow up with several other movies that you've watched during the week.
That's right. Don't ever do that. We never would. We never have. I implore you, go look at the tape. Don't listen to it, but you can look at it.
I forgot where I'm at in the intro. This is a bad sign. Does it get worse or better?
This all may come to a head together.
For Mortal Kombat, everybody, the 2021 version of the children's video game classic, Mortal Kombat.
Wait, there's a new one? I just watched the one from 1998 or whatever it was.
Never mind then. This show is going to be great. Matt,
4?
Could you synopsize either one of those movies? I don't really care which.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of can't. But here we go. Mortal Kombat coming at you an hour and 55 minutes. Written by Greg Russo and Dave Callahan. Directed by Simon McQuoid. By the way, I want to talk about this for a second. So this movie, we will talk about the quality of it and everything. But if anything is indicative of it, you hear the name Callahan and you're like, yeah, but Dave's last name is Callahan with an M at the end. And then you've got directed by Simon McQuoid, but I've heard of McQuaid's before. It's like they got all of the like it's the Borts, it's like I've been drinking plenty of Malk.
Lots of Spielbergos and Malks. Yeah.
It's lots of Spielbergos. Yeah. Starring Louis Tan, Jessica McNamee, Josh Lawson, Joe Taslim, Mikad Brooks, Hiroyuki Sanada, Tadambo Asano, Chin Han, Ludi Kim, Max Huang, and here is your Book Club for Movies synopsis for Mortal Kombat. With Earthrealm's fate left to the 10th and final Mortal Kombat tournament, Lord Raiden must quickly find and train Earth's mightiest heroes before Shang Tsung and his army of Outworld followers are able to hunt them down and murder them, creating an uneven tournament Earthrealm has no chance of winning. I purposely put in Earth's mightiest heroes because I think it's funnier to refer to anybody but the Avengers as Earth's mightiest heroes.
Don't you think it's about time they had a league of their own?
I always am thinking that, and the fact that nobody has the guts to say it in a real movie is just infuriating to me.
Boy, our references so far for this film also not promising.
Okay.
Where do we start?
I want to start with this. I want to start with I typically we don't do this, but I am going to kind of knock this out of the park right away. The actual plot of the game versus the plot of this movie, which is essentially a rebooted version of the original. It's starting from the beginning. And I just want to talk about this very, very quickly in that they make it a point that to win Mortal Kombat is to essentially win 10 versions of this long running tournament called Mortal Kombat, in which the winning realm, whoever it may be, is then allowed to basically take over everything. That's kind of it. In our case, it's Outworld is a realm that is run by this guy named Shao Kahn, who has a lackey named Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung is kind of the one who's been running the tournament for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
We don't see Shao Kahn in anything but statue form.
Right, or statue, right. And that's not a surprise, and it's actually a good thing. But for this movie, the way they've gone with it, and I actually kind of like this concept, Shang Tsung has never been one to follow the rules. He always tries to break the rules of Mortal Kombat, which were set by elder gods thousands of years ago. He always tries to subvert them in some way, and it usually doesn't work so hot for him. And in this case, we never actually, and we're to spoil this movie as always, so I'm gonna spoil this particular part. We never get to the tournament. The tournament never occurs. We are actually, at the end of this movie, we are still days away from the actual tournament occurring. So this movie is preemptively Shang Tsung trying to kill all of Earthrealm's best fighters that will be entered into the tournament before the tournament starts. So Outworld can basically just do what every other player who plays Overwatch does to me whenever I play it, which is stomp, 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 because I'm bad. Pushing that piece of plot out there. That is the actual plot of the movie. It's Shang Tsung has got to do this.
I mean, that's the plot of the movie because they put it in text at the very beginning. Almost like they're trying to convince you it's the plot of the movie.
Well, the other plot of the movie is following Cole Young, who is a non-character in all of Mortal Kombat until this movie. And again, we're going to spoil this, and I'm going to get this out of the way like as soon as I can. Anybody who was surprised after the movie began who Cole Young ended up being I'm surprised for you. If you didn't see that coming, I'm kind of surprised.
Wait, I'm going to be surprised
that he's related to that he's blood relative to to Scorpion.
Right.
Like, obviously that's what that was.
Yes, that was very obvious, but also I wouldn't say he ended up becoming Scorpion or anything.
Well, he doesn't become Scorpion, but he's blood relative, and he's the one that ostensibly is what brings Scorpion back into the Earth realm for we bookend this movie with the fights that you'd expect, which are Scorpion versus Sub-Zero.
Right.
That's how this movie gets bookended. Start, beginning. That first fight, I mean, the movie starts with that fight of Sub-Zero invading the Shirai Ryu's like base area where Hanzo Hasashi is hanging out with his family, doing their family things. He's got to take a walk. He's got to go peep. And then Sub-Zero shows up and we're going to freeze everybody. You're all frozen.
So as far I can't tell if you enjoy the movie or not, kind of, but I also am out of, like, I had a backlog of responses there, and now I'm just, I think you've defeated me ahead of time.
This movie is both simultaneously, and this is exactly how I feel, and I said this to Beth very soon after the movie ended, this movie is simultaneously better than and worse than the original Mortal Kombat movie.
You know what? That's pretty good, actually, because, and unavoidably, I think we're going to end up talking about that moldier Kombat movie.
Okay, I've been watching a lot of X-Files lately because I still to this day have never watched the entire series, so it's weird that you're bringing that up. Yes, when Fox Mulder showed up and was like, Dana, what is going on here?
But saying that it's both better and not as good is pretty darn descriptive, because over and over again, I found myself asking why the older one worked better than this one. Spoiler, I guess, if we're getting to final impressions, although I think you could have intuited it so far. I don't know if you agree with that, but
again, it's a very complex thought process that I have going for Mortal Kombat.
The beginning might be a good place to start then, because yes, it's Scorpion with his family. He goes out to get some water. Sub-Zero shows up with some Lin Kuei buddies, you would imagine, and murders his family, freezes them, and all of that, actually, I love.
Amazing.
Like, it's a very promising beginning.
Freaking
it looks beautiful.
Terrific intro.
And get this, the action is actually pretty great. Like, I'm still on my kick, and actually for the rest of the show, I'm going to finally get back to that as far as action movies go. But it's filmed from a distance. It's not shaky cam.
Right.
It's Joe Taslim who can do the work. This is we talked about him a little bit, the other guy, quote unquote, from the raid, the guy who wasn't Eco, and can bring it all on his own and is fantastic in that movie. Go watch The Raid.
Both him and for Mortal Kombat though, Joe Taslim and Hiroyuki Sanada are the two.
Yes.
And like there is some fight chemistry between the two of them.
And I wouldn't say, I'm sorry, Sanada, did you say?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's necessarily an action star either. Like, you'll probably recognize him. I always remember him from The Wolverine, probably disappointingly to some people, but I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And he's been in lots of good stuff. And he brings it also in this. That fight choreography, direction, everything to the beginning of this film is pretty great. I liked a lot.
Agreed. And then it certainly does decide to get at the tippy top of the mountain right at the beginning and then go, hey guys, here's what happens when you push something down a mountain. Watch it go. Because what I can say for the remaining portions of the movie, and we can discuss however in depth about whatever you want to talk about. But what I can say is the rest of the fight scenes, I think, are all pretty good.
The rest are serviceable, but never as good as the first, as that opener.
Never as good as the first, but I also think the rest of the fight scenes fall victim to something that first scene does not have, which is you only have the one guy with powers, the other guy does not. So he's working powerless, essentially. Everybody else throughout the movie, for the most part, ends up with powers, and they explain that, which I admit that was one of the weaknesses that I felt really strongly, was that they had to be trained to unlock their abilities and nobody knows what the abilities are. I did kind of hate that because I liked that it was an inherent thing within that person already. It didn't need a name. It didn't need to be brought out. It just was.
And you didn't like that?
I didn't love that it was a power they needed to name. It's the midi-chlorians thing. I don't need midi-chlorians to tell me that the Force is something powerful. By just virtue of the situations that occur with Ben giving us the information at the beginning of Star Wars, the Force surrounds us, it binds us, it does all this stuff. Got it. Great. I'm in. Same thing here. Sub-Zero, he freezes things right off the bat. I don't need to know how he does it. He can. I don't need to know when you're going to introduce a character that is a giant four-armed dragon man.
How does he do that?
I don't need to. Yeah. When there's an entire outworld that's another realm, I don't necessarily. It's a good reason to bring them together to get them trained up, quote unquote, but also just getting them together to stop Shang Tsung from killing them all to continue with Mortal Kombat. Pretty good reason to get them together in the first place. See,
I'm kind of mixed on the whole thing because I like the original movie where Liu Kang's power is kind of dormant, and they reference it actually do they actually reference it at all in the first movie?
No.
Or does he just fireball at the end kind of out of nowhere as a
No, he just
thing?
he just fireballs at the end. It just is
right. Okay. Yeah. I loved that. That was cool.
Yeah.
Here they obviously do reference it a little bit more. They call it each person's arcana, and during training it's kind of the point being find what your arcana is, and nobody knows what it's going to be, and it's different for every person. Somehow I actually liked that and wished the movie would have almost centralized that,
Sure.
if I get what you're saying, definitely, and I think obviously in the execution, which this will be a common theme, the execution of it left something to be desired, but I kind of latched onto that in kind of I guess maybe for lack of latching onto a lot of other things in a compelling way, something that was I was interested. It's very basic, it's like when superheroes show up, especially with latent abilities, you're like, how are they going to manifest? This is kind of the gimmick for the Inhumans too, right? Especially if you watch the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Sure.
When they get the Terrigen Mist, what's the power going to cut? That's kind of just compelling right off the bat. That's cool to wonder about and see happen and stuff like that. They don't lean into it enough to be that compelling here, although there are some saving graces. And I guess this is just like a wild whirlwind of things. So I'm just going to keep it going.
And that's good because this movie is, I'm not going to say it's a mess because I don't think it is. I don't think this is a mess of a movie at all. I think this is like the Whedon cut.
Yeah,
that's a mess.
That would be.
This is a movie that there's a through line. The in general, the way it kind of works and the characters working together makes some sense. There's a semblance of continuity with how it all fits together. I don't think it's a mess. I think this is a case where, okay, here's the comparison where you're going to roll your eyes out of your head down the street.
I love it. I love these.
We've talked about this a number of times. Okay. And we will talk about it one more time minimum because I still got to finish the last movie in the stupid Marvel universe. But Endgame, Infinity War, especially Infinity War, right? Fan service the movie. That's all it is.
Especially Infinity War's fan service, the movie.
Yeah, the final sequence, that whole like everybody in the world, the giant the whole or I'm sorry,
I think you're talking
Endgame.
about Endgame. Okay,
Endgame,
yeah, right.
sorry. Endgame is full on fan service the movie. The thing that has going for it, and you get it with that part at the end when every single Marvel character shows up again, is you have 20 movies ahead of it building to this fan service the movie. Now, inherently, having a fan service the movie just with one single movie isn't a problem. But I think with this, they bit off more than they could chew somehow. And I'm still, I'm still troubled with how they managed to do that. But it's like they wanted to make fan service the movie, and in the process forgot about what Mortal Kombat kind of as a story told in general, in the simplest of terms. They tried to fit in other characters. They decided we're going to do deep cuts on a couple of characters because we're banking on making a sequel so that we can bring in other characters that you do know, which, okay, sure. And that's fine. But
then they still brought in so many characters that I didn't know at all. Like that were created for the movie. Am I wrong?
No,
or am I just not as versed?
Because you're thinking of Raiko and you're thinking of,
there's the Dragon Lady too.
Natara, I think is her name. Both of them, Natara was from, and I actually had to write it down. Natara was from Deadly Alliance. She does show up.
Okay. All right. And well, at least they're from a game. Like
Reiko is from MK4. The only people that were not from the game are the main character of the frigging movie,
right?
Cole,
yeah, Cole Young,
and then like every other pseudo character that pops up here or there, like they're nobodies. Everybody else that is from the game, you know. And let me say this in terms of characterization and like everything that goes into it. The character that I maybe have disliked the most for as long as Mortal Kombat has existed is the MVP of this frigging movie, and I hated it. That Kano is so freaking good. That dude is funny.
Okay, yeah, all right.
He is so funny, and he is part of maybe my favorite it's my favorite sequence in the movie that is outright. There's one moment that is like, it's not a nod just to this game. It's a nod to the game for sure, but it's also a nod to everybody who's ever played fighting games ever.
Sure, go. What you got?
So when they're learning about their arcana, and by the way, I also have to say the fact that Kano's arcana is a laser eye and it's not
pretty stupid, right?
That was the dumbest thing possible. Like absolutely like reaches the skies of stupidity. Also, that might in fact be the reason I don't like the arcana thing at all. It's because of the eye. When that should,
but that almost approaches like how stupid the original was at points, you know, like
except the original had reverence for the stupid idiocy of the character at least, and gave him his dumb mask or the metal eye, which makes a difference. But
I'm sorry, continue your.
But
Kano
the moment that Kano has, number one, Kano has all the best lines in the movie. I mean, they clearly made him the polar opposite. Like he's the kind of rides more the bad guy side than the good guy side, like Johnny Cage, where Johnny Cage is the wiseacre for the good guys. Kano is the wiseacre for the bad guys, although they also get Cabal, who also has some amazing lines. Anyways, Kano's best, the nod and the wink to the gaming community that I absolutely just adored, and it would tickled the hell out of me, was he's gonna go fight Liu Kang in the ring, and they're gonna start. And as soon as they start, Liu Kang sweeps him, and he falls. Sweeps him again. He's like, "Fine, that's real cute. Can you do anything else?"
Goes to the only move you know.
Goes to sweep him. He jumps, and then he gets swept again as soon as he lands. Which is absolutely. There are so many players that will just roll up to you, and I'm just gonna sit there and kneel and sweep all day long. That's it.
I laughed so, like, I didn't even get necessarily that Easter egg, if that's what you want to call it, towards the gaming community. But now that you mention it, of course. But regardless, I laughed the hardest, I think for the whole movie at that. And at, yes, the rest of his lines. Yes, when I said saving graces before, I was heading in the direction of Kano. He's definitely, and I think, let's be clear, it was mostly on accident. Because he's written certainly as the blustery, egotistical dude from the first movie, or I guess any game since.
Yeah.
And before, possibly. But he's also self-effacing and jokestery in a way that doesn't work, like, but ends up becoming kind of a unique character because of that, even though by the end of the film he's done his double cross and he becomes basically, he loses everything that makes him unique to some extent. But yeah, for most of the movie, I am laughing out loud at the stuff he says. There's the part where at the very beginning, Cole notices that Sonya doesn't have the Mortal Kombat birthmark that means you're marked for the competition. And he just gives like a wah-wah off camera.
Which you're either born with or you kill somebody who has one and then it comes to you, by the way.
But they could have leaned on that a little bit more, because obviously Cole had his from birth because he was of the Hisashi bloodline.
Right.
Everybody else had to earn theirs by killing somebody else. But then that just goes right into Sonya's weird motivations. Like, she's maybe the most weirdly characterized in the entire film, because she's special ops, but she's not ish. Like, she's operating on her own. She's also crazy. Like, she has the, Mouth of Madness corkboard going on with all the things and she has divined everything about the Mortal Kombat tournament stuff on her own. And so there's this later on, when she sees everything is real, she's like, it's real. Like, I was like, oh, did we think you were crazy for a while? And Cole, I guess, kind of gives off some of that. But then she also has this thing where, like, she wants the badge so bad. So she's like, gonna defeat, or she's gonna get it somehow, and she's relieved when she is a mess. Like, I think you're right. I don't think this movie is a mess. I think there are little messes throughout the entire thing.
No, 100% agreed. And this is a case where absolute comparison here. Holy crap, I hate it. I never ever like to give the man any kind of credit, because I think he's a garbage director.
The Paul W.S. Anderson comment.
The biggest hack in Hollywood, outstandingly so. But I'll tell you what, man, he knew how to handle Sonya and the Kano situation in that first movie. For as overly actiony and stupidy, childishy as it was, it works. And it made way more sense to have her annoyed that we didn't get Jax in the first movie, because Jax was, or because because Kano killed her other partner, which I think is actually in the game. I think that's the game, is he killed her partner and she's been after him ever since. That's how she ended up in the original tournament in the first place.
Isn't Jax in the first movie?
He is. He's for just, like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his arms ripped off yet, and it's at the beginning when they're breaking into the club to catch Kano, and Kano gets away.
Well, so you've brought up the first movie in terms of things working where they don't hear, and again, that was the question I kept asking myself. And since this is just a whirlwind, I'm gonna go like this. This is Mortal Kombat, the movie Olympics. Bad reference. Nobody will get that but us. But
I barely get it.
Why do you think the old one works so much better than this one?
I honestly, I think this comes down to a pretty simple thing, which is Christopher Lambert. So I think ultimately what made the first one and what still makes the first one work. And I don't know, I maybe this is offensive to Paul Wasting My Life Anderson, but the movie is camp upon camp. Like, every aspect of that movie, from the color grading to the style in which they've created Outworld, to where the tournament takes place, to the introduction of certain characters,
set design, Yep.
And then I mean, outright, like just straight up, the fact that they went with Christopher Lambert of all people to play Lord Raiden, whereas this movie is like, it's Mortal Kombat where they tried to take it seriously, and they tried to make they tried to take it more legit. And I think that the spaces where it gets legit with some of that fighting, yes, that is the stuff I want to see, but I want to see that in the campy movie. Like, that's what I wanted. And the campy movie, the other thing that kind of makes it hard is that the fight scenes in that campy movie are not bad. Like, you had some fighters in there that were actual martial artists that did some real solid work. And while it's largely bloodless and has none of the teeth that the game ever had, and this one does, it doesn't take itself seriously, whereas this one is very much we're making a movie here, guys. We're making a film.
And I think that's why your descriptor of better but worse is it.
Yeah.
Because it does, like, they brought out all of the stuff that people can for way less money than they ever could nowadays. The great cameras, digital, the effects, like stuff that arguably would have made the original look great also. And you know what? I have no solution because I think it's hard to then make, it's like the FMV video game conundrum. Like, these things were great and in retrospect great, but try to make a new one that correctly plays on that camp with HD video and, good special effects. Like,
sure.
I don't know that I've seen it done yet, and here I don't think I've seen it done yet. Still, it looks fantastic. The sound and special effects are gorgeous, and what you've really wanted to see, even though maybe you've been seeing those in video games for some time now, like in the most recent Mortal Kombats and stuff, like it reached a parity.
Right.
But it doesn't work as a whole. Like, and maybe we're slightly. Did you go to the PAX panel with me that I think had some of the Only Movie podcast guys? It probably had Kroll in it, at least. We went to all Kroll's movie and video game stuff, and I think it was just where they talked about the low stakes kind of nature of video game movies, where they're going to make money almost no matter what, so why make them amazing? I
don't remember that, but I feel like we did discuss it somehow. So
I think it's a great point regardless, like it makes perfect sense. Like, the stuff like this is going to make money. That's why Marvel was such a shot out of left field, is when their studio got enough power to do what they wanted with their own properties,
right.
Because for the most part, people knew, Uwe Boll knows that he can make money because there's enough fans that'll see it no matter what. So
sure.
I think there's a little bit of that going on here with this. It's just still disappointing, I guess. It doesn't get better.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think that's another one of those things, and I don't know if that's a budgetary thing. I don't know what. Like, look at Simon McQuaid's whatever his last name is. Look at his directing credits. He doesn't have any.
I was tempted to and didn't. I didn't recognize his name.
He's got one short film.
Wow.
He's a producer.
This is his first feature.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that a first-time director shouldn't be given a shot with a property like this. That's not at all what I'm saying here. What I am saying, though, is that for a movie like this, maybe having somebody with a little more under their belt in this particular realm would have been a good thing.
Another realm, or
any realm,
Outworld.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll take it. Anybody. If Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa had directed it, it would have been a better movie, I'm sure. But
speaking of which, dude, Shang Tsung in this movie, it just straight up channeling Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa. You say it all in one breath. I can't, I've got it written down just so I can say it correctly for once in my life. But Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa.
I'm probably saying it wrong.
Shang Tsung from the older movies, Shang Tsung in this movie, just straight up channeling that for better or worse, I guess.
Which
it's not the worst part of the movie.
It's another one though. Like when they make the inevitable sequel, which I'm sure they will, because even crappy movies get sequels now.
And it's set up,
I truly hope that guy ends up getting basically what happens in the game, where Shang Tsung is young, then he's old, then he's young again, and he keeps getting his life force taken, and they just bring Tagawa back to do the role, because
it might as well. Video games did it.
Yeah.
Chin Han, by the way, is the name of Shang Tsung in this movie.
Right, and he was in something else too. He was in
he's been in lots of stuff.
A Marvel movie or something.
That was lots of seasoned actors in this thing, and even mentioning directing, I wouldn't necessarily fault a lot of the directing here. Like I said, that opening sequence, there is some craft there, even though later on it's obvious they use some of the shaky cam and kind of the standard tricks to hide less experienced martial artists or straight up just actors,
Sure.
I wouldn't fault the directing. I think the writing is the culprit here for the most part, honestly. The dialogue, the story beats, the pacing.
I think you're right. I think the writing is definitely I think the writing is definitely the biggest issue here. My point, I guess, is that while not common, a great director can sometimes elevate poor writing by making decisions on the fly in the editing room, I mean, ultimately, he has, in theory, we assume he's got final cut. I make the assumption until it's outright proven that a director has final cut. I know that's not necessarily the case. It's usually not, but he's still the person making the movie.
Yeah, this seems
like it was by committee.
More of a studio film.
Yes.
More of a,
this seems like it was a by committee thing where people went, okay, we'll cut that, edit that, move that there, And you know, the unfortunate thing again is, I mean, we know there are more sequels coming because Joe Taslim announced that he was signed on for 4 of them.
Oh, that many? Okay. Jeez.
I mean, look, as long as they don't regress into the, you know, Armageddon situation, by all means.
Annihilation.
Yes, thank you.
Which signaled Armageddon like in real life. No, I get what
you're
saying.
There was MK Armageddon, and that was not a good game.
Oh, was there? Oh, okay.
It was
I'm behind on
you're not behind at all.
Okay. I'm ahead of the curve at this point.
I guess a couple other things that I want to mention.
Yeah, sure.
Loved Cabal, the use of Cabal. Did not expect to see him. Really fun character in the games. I love that they used him. And I actually kind of love that for all of the characters, they pretty much gave everybody their powers. Like everybody got something that you recognized from the game.
Yeah.
We got some fatalities. We got Jax's head smash fatality,
yes.
which was rad. I fully admit I'm not thrilled with Sonya basically just showing up at the end. I've got my powers. I'm going to kill Melina right away.
Little parting gift from Kano.
Not even fighting Melina. She just like, Melina's there and then blasted. She's saved your life.
Blows
Cole.
a hole through her.
Yeah.
Another like that's a fatality from the games.
It is. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know if
she does it in 10. I just don't know if it was done before that. And that was
she always had the rings. The rings were the main power that she had. In the first game, her everybody only had one fatality, and hers was the kiss of death, where she and then yeah.
Probably good that they didn't bring that back for this one.
So. I loved all of that stuff. Cabal, like I said, was very cool. I really like that. I like that they went full 9 on his costume, and his costume looked great. It worked. You get no background on him why he's in the costume, which is fine. Like he's an outworld.
Just that him and Kano had history. And he's the guy that kind of turns Kano towards the end.
Right.
But yeah, Cabal and actually Kung Lao, who figures in more prominently.
Freaking Kung Lao. That guy looked just like Kung Lao in the game.
But also appears out of nowhere. Like I didn't know he was coming. And that was actually like...
I love that he literally shows up as he does in the game with the hat just coming out of the ground and then teleporting in.
Anytime a character comes out of nowhere in this movie, I'm kind of into it, except when it's the ones that I'm like, why are they in this?
Right.
I get it. You put the B characters in there, especially if they're going to get
fatality
Nitara right away.
Loved seeing Kung Lao get his buzzsaw fatality too. That was cool.
I like literally minutes before that, I'm thinking, because it's starting to ramp up and the fights are starting to happen more often. I'm like, you know what? This hasn't been that gory really. Like we get some like head stabs and stuff, but there hasn't been any like actual dismemberment or any. And then that the Kung Lao thing slices her in the end.
Now I want to
let up from there.
I wanted to ask you about a very specific character and portion of the film.
Excellent.
And I was curious what your thoughts were, because I definitely have opinions on this. How did you feel about the dragon named Goro?
I mean, Goro's in the movie. Did they call him a dragon?
He's always been called a dragon. Like
sorry.
But
I mean, I've seen some people being like, I don't want to see CGI Goro. Like I don't. And maybe that's an important distinction. Like especially when we talk about the old and the new movie. Obviously, I loved the camp of the old movie and not CGI Goro in the old movie. I didn't have a problem with. Even when I watch it nowadays, I'm just I
love it. I still love it.
How much nostalgia plays a part in that is, 99% probably. We'll never admit. But I didn't mind. But also seeing him in this movie, seeing him fully CGI'd out and all that. Like he's not a character, but I actually didn't care about the CGI-ness of him. Like I'm fine with that. Like that's
so I kind of flip back and forth on it. And it's because with the CGI Goro, I mean, he moved more like Goro in the games. He fought like Goro in the games. He had agility. He had ability to move. Whereas the one from the original that is a practical effect completely, number one, it had the whole Bruce the Shark thing going for it where it never worked. But there was a pure limitation there. And they still were able to work around it in a way that made Goro work for me. I am always universally going to go to the practical effect first. It's my preference. While I'm certain you're right, there's some nostalgia there. I think the nostalgia is more for the practical effect, not that particular effect. Like I always want that. I would rather see an actor punch a practical thing than punch something and then see them kind of work around it. And this isn't a case where you're really worried about that. It's a pretty short scene, actually, which was maybe my biggest complaint, is that Prince Goro has been the champion of the Mortal Kombat tournament for 9 tournaments now, thousands of years. And that no-name Cole Young just beats him in 5 minutes. And like,
but he's partially powered Cole Young.
This
is when he gets,
and his power was so stupid looking. He got Aquaman shirt. And then he gets like
Aquaman shirt,
and then he gets sticks that have
some
knives
billy clubs, which are
billy
I guess
clubs.
they're technically tone fuzz, or however you say it, but billy clubs. Yeah.
They're William clubs.
They're William clubs. Yeah. Okay, you're right about my opinion.
No,
I
anytime I could beat your opinion down.
When I say I didn't mind CGI Goro, it was kind of more of a, I know I'm going to get CGI, so I'm judging it on terms of, did I get good or bad CGI?
No.
And I wouldn't say this is even great CGI. You know, it's not like they took into account the fight choreography all that much. Or, you know, at one point Cole breaks one of his arms and he fixes one of his arms with one of his other arms. And that's at least something unique that you're like, oh, I guess that's easier to do when you have 4 arms, you know, even though you have 2 arms, you probably still... Anyway.
Stupid 4 arms.
I would have rathered... In fact, I'm listening to the Jurassic Park podcast of Wizard and the Bruiser. I know I mentioned that before, but how that movie didn't just use CGI, and that was how incredible it was. They used it very purposefully in conjunction with practical effects to create something better than both. Okay, maybe not. Yeah, sure, man.
No, I mean, you can throw a maybe in front of that. I think that's right. I think that's a valid potential.
I certainly would have rathered, if anything, for the fact that it would have signified that somebody who did care this much, I would have rathered for some, a combination approach. Sure, absolutely. Give me something that inhabits that physical space.
And I think the funny thing is, like 9 times out of 10 with that, I'd probably agree with you. This is a case where I don't think it would have been the best choice, only because to do it and to make it look good, you would have had to have the guys who, ILM, or we need somebody
it sounds like the hardest thing.
You need the people at Marvel that are able to make that work, right? Like, but to your point, yeah, absolutely. That's like, if I can get better effects done that way, that's the way I'm going to prefer it. I didn't dislike this Goro. My biggest issue with Goro was the treatment of him, that he kind of got short shafted, I guess.
That's true.
Based on the story, and he never, out of all of the characters, there are maybe 3 or 4 that I personally don't feel that you can kind of give the short end of the stick. And that's another thing this movie kind of did, and where it failed. And one of the things, he didn't get the short end of the stick in terms of nothing like real bad happens to him, but Liu Kang always should be the main character of this, at least initial movie. Not Hanzo Hasashi's kid, not his relative, not Johnny Cage. It's always been Liu Kang's story, which is kind of annoying that he is sidelined into a secondary character that still does cool stuff. He's still got, his moment with the dragon, which is cool. The bit with Kano, the whole fact that he loses his cousin Kung Lao, that's a cool moment too. But this story, if they're going to move forward, Cole should not be the main character any longer. It needs to revert to, okay, we need Cole, but Liu is the guy. He is the one that's got to fight Shang Tsung. He's the one. Like, and that I admit I disliked, and I have a little resentment towards the character of Cole, because it sucks the life away from the story. And this is I'm trying to remember. Oh, that's right. It's also hack Paul W.S. Anderson. I will never understand in cases like this where the general story already exists. The plot is there. You're going to take it and say, well, I like 5 of the things in this 100 bullet point story. And those are the only 5 things I'm going to use. Everything else out the door. Resident Evil. I hate that movie because it's got jack to do with Resident Evil, the game. You titled the story Resident Evil and said, we'll throw it in a mansion. We'll use a couple of characters that have the same name. Nothing to do with anything. Oh, right. Mortal Kombat. Why are you taking a story that has a built-in story just to screw with it to try and make and the thing is, if you're going to do that, make it something different, make it something interesting. This is not that. It's not different. It's not interesting. And in fact, all you've done is you've added a character strictly so you didn't have to kill or blow your load on every good guy, because the amount of good guys in Mortal Kombat are usually kind of while there's a balance to it, there's a lot more gray to bad guys than there are good guys. Right. So cool. We can't bring in Johnny Cage because we need him to come in and save the day by punching somebody's nuts in the next movie. All right, fine. You don't need to worry about that.
You're depressingly very accurate. There's 0 chance that's not going to happen.
Well, come on. He's got 4 or 5 moves that are that's a Cage move. And that's the big one, the nut punch.
But take it to the next level. Make him obsessed with scroll tapping. He just taps everybody all the time. Just he can't get enough of the nuts.
That'd be great. I'd love that if he was a nut tapper.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm available.
I want to see him. I really want to see him get into a fight where he goes to do that and realizes, wait, this is a woman. And just like in the movie, in the games, he drops down and if you did the move in the games against Sonya or Melina or Katana, instead of doing the actual punch, he would just go down and go, and he would
oh really? I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. The Liu Kang thing, it's funny because that's something that turned me off some of the more, I guess maybe even just starting with 10, because I didn't play 9 all the way through. I think I just watched some of the story. But firing up those games and seeing that Liu Kang was not at the center of the story, is it even in fact a bad guy for most of them, at first really turned me off. I was like, oh, this isn't, what I'm looking for, somebody who fell off for a long time and just wanted what he knew before. But by the end of those games, I was like, okay, I get it. Especially NetherRealm having the reins, not wanting to just redo the same thing over and over.
Sure.
In fact, maybe purposefully trying to throw a wrench in their own works to be like, okay, we got to do something. What if we just restrict ourselves from making Liu Kang the Superman? And it worked, and I loved it. And looking back, it's great. I don't think they had those same qualms, or I don't think they needed to have those same qualms in this movie. They could have just given us a new Liu Kang story, and I don't think anybody would have been all that angry at it. But it's not even the main problem.
No.
The fact that Cole is the main dude, but not the main dude. We start off with this scorpion thing. Yep. Cole is part of the bloodline because a baby survives. And by the end, he sees flashes of Scorpion throughout, or I'm sorry, Hanzo throughout, because when Hanzo does finally appear in the final battle between Cole and Sub-Zero, Hanzo appears, and for some reason, it must be for everything outside of this movie, for some reason that fight still holds weight. For some reason, I still get goosebumps when it starts to happen, and I'm like, okay, the movie doesn't deserve this, but I'm into it. And sure. Scorpion versus Sub-Zero,
dude. It's the fact that, man, you got the number one. You didn't get the one Paul W.S. Anderson stupid the maybe that's the thing I hated the most in the original movie, and I still cannot stand it, is that the kunai is in his hand. I always hated that. This made the kunai so much more interesting, for one, but the fact that he is brought back with that kunai being jammed into Sub-Zero, and you're immediately with get over here,
yeah,
was awesome.
I'm fine with that. I'm actually totally fine with that, but they still don't know what to do with Cole.
Right, absolutely.
I would have preferred it if he straight up turned into Scorpion at the end. I'm totally fine. Cole Young is now the Scorpion. That's fine, and he's Scorpion from here on out. But he doesn't. Hanzo pops back out, literally says, "I'm Scorpion now," and then the fight continues until it stops, and Cole does some more. But then Hanzo is like, I'll take it from here. Like it doesn't work because they don't know what to do with both of them in the end.
Absolutely,
they know
agree.
They have to have Scorpion, but they don't want to make Cole actually Scorpion. So why is Cole even there at all?
Agreed.
Like they didn't figure it out.
But the one thing the final fight did do, barring Cody and Hager, I can't remember the other guy in Final Fight, so that joke died before it even was born. There's a video game called Final Fight. It was like Double Dragon,
Oh, why can't I? No,
Mayor
yeah,
Hager,
I
you had
can't.
Cody, and then you had like Devin or something. I don't know.
It's like Blade or something. Gosh dang it!
I don't know. But the one of the things that I did actually really love, did you catch the quote unquote, I guess, Easter egg? And this helps if you know the history of all the characters in Mortal Kombat. But after they begin fighting Sub-Zero and Scorpion, that Sub-Zero loses all the armor. Did you recognize that moment there?
No.
So Scorpion or Sub-Zero. Okay, let's this is stupid. Sub-Zero is the leader of and member of the Lin Kuei, a Chinese. If I remember correctly, they're a Chinese ninja like assassin group, whereas Scorpion is part of the Shura Ryu.
Right.
So they've been warring forever.
Right.
Bi-Han is Sub-Zero's real name.
Right.
When Sub-Zero is killed in the games, his brother ends up becoming Sub-Zero. Similar to how Scorpion is always Hanzo. He never changes, but he's no longer human. Sub-Zero has the same thing happen to him where he becomes more than human and he becomes Noob Saibot. And at the end, he loses all of the armor and he's wearing the noob out. He's totally wearing the full black noob outfit. And then I
think that's Mortal Kombat 9, isn't it? The 360
when he becomes noob.
I think.
Oh no, I think he became noob before. Noob had been around for a while.
I know noob.
I don't know when they
defined that, but I want to say with the story reboot in 9
could have been
solidified.
Could have been. It's possible. Anyway. But then you get the note at the end from Shang Tsung that death is not the end; it's just a pause or something. Things can come back from the dead, and so we know the sequel is probably going to bring us. This is my guess. Because all of them died, like all the bad guys, except for did Cabal actually die? Does he get killed?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But Guy is the name of the third Final Fight character, by the way.
Guy, right? Of
it's
course.
Just Guy.
Why could we not?
That's why you couldn't remember it.
I couldn't remember it.
You said it accidentally a million times.
My guess is that with Goro dying, they're either going to have him come back as Kintaro, or they'll have Kintaro show up for the sequel, or Shiva.
Ooh, I don't like that at all.
Oh, I don't.
That seems too.
But just based on what we watched,
okay,
we will get another Sub-Zero. We'll get Noob. I'm guessing that Sub-Zero Scorpion will play a larger role, and we'll get Johnny Cage.
Definitely Cage. They put the stinger before the credits in this movie, and we know that he's going to Hollywood.
That's right. He's going to Hollywood to find Johnny Cage. Yeah, man. I admit. I don't hate this movie, and I will absolutely put this in a rewatch. Like
I was gonna say, yeah, you'll watch it again.
I know I'm gonna rewatch it because this is, I can say, significantly better than what was the second Mortal Kombat called? Not Armageddon.
Annihilation. Sure.
Significantly better than Annihilation. It does have some pretty good fight scenes. The
new segment on Book Club for Movies. Was it better than Mortal Kombat Annihilation?
Hey, you ask your daughter if movies are better than Daredevil. So
I know.
I don't think this is any different. In fact, I think this is in the same vein.
I've shown her the original Mortal Kombat movie. I did not show her Annihilation and may not. So I'm not that bad of a dad.
Now you should. And then make sure you show her the cartoons. Because
that's right. Forget about those.
You should definitely forget about them.
Everybody should.
But like I said at the top of this, I kind of have I've got annoyances by the fact that Kano is the best character in the movie.
It's weird, but great.
And the guy does a great job. He's really funny, and you've seen it if you've seen the Red Band trailer. But the whole like when he rips the heart out, and he goes, "You're a beauty!" Like it's just perfect. It's just kind of
Josh
funny. Lawson. I do, like I said, I think I've got some resentment towards the creation and the existence of the character of Cole. I admit, while the guy himself isn't, like, I got nothing against the guy, he's a fine fighter and everything, I don't like that character. I don't like how he fits into the story. I don't like how they built the story around him. And then, to your exact point, that they build this story around this character just to not know what to do with him and drop him basically at the end of the movie and go, well, guess what, errand boy? Go to Hollywood.
It's such a, like, if anything's a studio thing, that's a studio thing. Like, we got to, the original, but we got to give it heart. Because for all intents and purposes, not much has changed between the first movie and this one, except they put Cole in it with a family and a child, and they made him part of a bloodline. And no, it didn't need it. The first one didn't need it. This one didn't need it.
Especially when you want to talk about heart. Okay, so let's talk about how Liu Kang, the whole Order of Light and all of the monks that he was a part of. And then he's got, but we need family. Right. Well, he's related to Kung Lao, who's now just been murdered.
You're
so
right.
he's
You're
got
right. Like it's obviously
everything they wanted to do with Cole already exists. And they've actually mentioned it in this movie with another character.
Yeah.
I'm curious if the writers were fans of the game, or if this was I know the director said he was, and lots of the actors have said they played it. They were familiar. Okay.
I don't necessarily get the feeling that they didn't have reverence for the source. Like, I don't get that feeling from this movie. I just get the feeling that it's speaking of writers, the only name I recognize was Callahan. And weirdly enough, dude, he's got his hands in so many other things. We most recently saw his work in Wonder Woman 1984,
which was barely used. There was hardly any fighting in that movie.
But he's also apparently writing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse too, according to IMDb. So,
oh man, I don't want them to screw that up, because that's the best comic book movie.
Zombieland Double Tap.
Okay, so this guy is
also
basically
Callahan,
just
apparently.
Yeah, he's not a okay.
But also The Expendables, which I haven't had a problem with a single one. So, oh, wait, here it is. I found it. It's towards the bottom of the list. Doom.
The Rock
Doom? He's got a story and screenplay credit.
The Rock Doom?
I believe so. 2005.
Oh, man, that movie is so good. Carl Urban.
Wait, I thought you hated that movie.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to watching it very soon, but I thut you disliked it.
It's not good. But it does have some moments in it. I mean, look, when it comes to that movie, the first person moment is pretty great. And after being alive for as long as I now am glad that it's not longer than it is.
Okay. So Mortal Kombat, if you want to watch it, it's garnered a quick 30 stars from this group of people.
Out of 44.
So take that as you will. I invite you to come back next week where we talk about something that, I'll just say it, I think is better, and Matt doesn't know what I'm going to say. I know we talked about doing a Godzilla show. We're
finally going to do The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins.
Hey, I've seen on IMDb when I tried to bring up this page that it might have won some awards, so I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. No. I'm down with The Father. Also, we have Falcon and Winter Soldier has finished up, and we talked about doing a show on that.
TVB, so, yeah. Let's do it. I want to talk about that.
What you want to do? Okay, you want to do the Falcon Winter Soldier show?
Absolutely.
Next week? Okay, so come back next week for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I always forget which one comes first. It's Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? The television show, the Disney Plus show, where we do a show on a show of a show again. Like WandaVision. Go listen to that. I feel like we'll mention it once or twice when talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or at least bring up some of the conversations we had there that we said we'd bring up again later. So
yeah, we could possibly do that.
All right, cool. So come back next week for that. This week still, even though we're probably close to an hour already, we talk about things that we've also watched and also want to talk about. Matt, do you have anything else you want to talk about this week for the rest of the show? Sorry, I didn't even say it. Is that still it?
Have I talked about the Wrong Missy yet?
You mentioned it in an offhand way, and we've had a lot of discussion about it off mic, but no.
Oh boy, the Wrong Missy. This is the only one I'm going to mention just because it will never fit anywhere else. So I this is a Netflix original. It's a Sandler verse movie. So it starts off, it's a Happy Madison production, which means everybody from a Sandler movie except Sandler will pop up in it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the case here. It's a David Spade vehicle. David Spade is a lonely guy, works at a ad agency or something. I don't honestly remember where he works. It's not super
Sounds
integral,
good.
but he goes on a blind date and ends up meeting a girl named Missy, who's played by Lauren Lapkus, and she's actually the main reason that I watched the movie.
I'm gonna say, which must be the reason.
Yeah, at 100%, because she's Wild Horses is her comedy troupe. She's on Comedy Bang Bang all the time. She does Freedom with Scott Aukerman and Paul F. Tompkins.
Great character stuff. Great improv.
Yeah, she's really, really funny. The Wrong Missy is definitely a movie that fits her, like some of the gross out character stuff she does. She's a very blatant and brazen character in this. The entire movie kind of revolves around David Spade meeting her. Her name is Missy. They go out on one date. It goes horribly. Months later, he meets another woman named Melissa, puts her name and also her phone number in his phone, gets an opportunity to go on a business trip to Hawaii, and decides, hey, you know what? We hit it off really well. I'm going to invite her. Invites the wrong Missy. One up, and then, off from there. And I got to say, this is not a movie that's going to hit for everybody. In fact, this is a movie that will probably miss for a lot of people.
I was going to say, I think it verifiably has not hit for a lot of people.
It hit pretty good for me. I thought it was pretty funny overall. The ludicrousness behind half the stuff that goes on. The fact that she plays a character that is super like she doesn't have a filter. I know people like that. I definitely know people like that. I've been that person for other people, not to necessarily the level she goes, but it's pretty funny. If you like Lauren Lapkus and you like David Spade, they actually work well together here. Like they're David Spade is playing mostly the straight man here, but he's not doing it where he's snarky about everything.
I was gonna say no sarcasm or less sarcasm.
Significantly less sarcasm. He definitely, it's there, but the majority of the movie is him playing the straight man, which I don't know that I hate it. I kind of liked it. I know he can pull out the sarcasm and the comedy that I like, and to see him kind of not do that and hold it back. Yeah, all right. I'm kind of into that. It kind of works for me.
I mean, technically, he has always excelled at the straight man, just also the sarcastic straight man. Like in the Chris Farley stuff, he is the straight man. Like Tommy Boy, he is the straight man.
Right, but every line out of his mouth is a sarcastic, retort. Yeah. So it's, in this case, it's supposed to be kind of one of those goofy love stories, and it definitely fits that. And it's like, again, the whole thing is ludicrous, and the fact, the fact that it ends with, with a happy ending, it based on everything that occurred, is like, okay, this is obviously a movie, but you get cameos from some pretty great actors and random people. Freaking at the beginning, Roman Reigns shows up. It's really weird to see him in things that are not related to The Rock. Vanilla Ice has a cameo in it. That's really funny.
Okay, now you got my interest.
Yeah, it's good. It's silly. I enjoyed it. It's on Netflix. It's dumb.
I understand.
Yeah,
I said knowingly.
Once again, if you engage in activities of that involve adult beverages or other recreational activities, I highly suggest engaging in those before watching this movie.
Wow, great segue. So I watched a movie called Come Drink With Me.
Is this the influence to the movie with Mads Mikkelsen? The Oscar-winning Mads Mikkelsen
don't
movie?
Get the reference yet, but I think I might.
I'm not even kidding. Like I'm being serious. He made it. So there's a foreign film called Another Round.
Another Round. No, this is unfortunately a segue in a convenient title only. I've long since threatened to go and watch this huge list. Did I ever send that to you? The huge list of action movies?
No.
No. Okay. So I watched two movies not too long ago, and I talked about them. In Search of the Last Action Hero, fun. But what I really wanted was Kung Fu Kicks, Iron Fists and Kung Fu Kicks, I believe. And in that one, you get much more of a history lesson, which is my deal. So I've compiled this list, and of that documentary, I kind of got the beginning of things because I had never delved into the Shaw Brothers arena.
Sure.
You know, this classic studio from China, from Hong Kong, that literally like the SB logo just looks like a Warner Brothers logo.
It does, yeah.
And these are all the movies that got huge in the 70s. This one actually came out in 66, I want to say. So that's as early back as I went. I know it's not necessarily the beginning. There are some holes in my big, long list. But I've begun the journey in earnest with Come Drink With Me and Dragon Inn, two King Hu movies. It was the name of the director. And they're amazing. They're wuxia or wushu, depending on how you want to say it. Wuxia. I guess there's a few.
Wushu is what I feel like I've heard.
Yeah, you can say it wrong a couple different ways, apparently. And there's three for me and Matt.
We're white. Go.
But
speak Chinese that you've never spoken.
I think Come Drink With Me is more famously known for introducing or popularizing Chang Pei Pei. Have you heard of her? Have you ever heard Quentin Tarantino talk for longer than 5 minutes at a time?
I have. Was she in? Did she pop up in Kill Bill?
Yes, I believe so. I haven't got there yet. Which speaking of holes in the movies I've seen. I've never seen the Kill Bill movies, and now I'm so glad that I've waited because I had none of this. I would have had none of this to pull from.
Dude, your mind is going to be blown from.
So yeah, I think that came up somewhere along the way. So yes, Pei Pei Chang, or Chang Pei Pei, depending on, again, how you want to say it wrong. It came with Come Drink With Me, and easy to see, like, she is a blast to watch. Like,
oh sure, she was in Crouching Tiger. Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, and that's on my list also because I've seen Crouching Tiger. I don't know how many years ago. Couldn't tell you much about it, but also seen it without any of this background. So I'm really looking forward to these movies that rip off all of these other movies. But this one's definitely worth watching. And as far as Dragon Inn goes, you can see, like, it's only a year later, but the dude came a long way. Like, I know that Come Drink With Me did well enough even in its time, but the level of production and even storytelling from Dragon Inn, just from 66 to 67, is pretty great. Like, the movie looks gorgeous. Like, there's some beautiful transfers. I think there's Criterion transfers of both actually out there that you can find. But the first movie, Come Drink With Me, where it kind of goes off the rails towards the end, like, it kind of becomes about something that it's not really about until third act, maybe just before. And it's still fun to watch, and I want to know what you're laughing about in just a second. Dragon Inn is way more of maybe a bottle episode, but with good reason. Like, it kind of confines the storytelling to it's just a more complete story. Like, Come Drink With Me kind of goes in a direction that you weren't expecting and is fun to watch, but you're still like, what was the first half of the movie about then? Dragon Inn stays with the same theme and story throughout and looks even better for it. So the martial arts, which is, I guess, kind of why I got into some of these, it's just interesting to see how it began, because it is, especially when it comes to King Hu, more of a like, he's very into kind of quick movements that convey, like, they can, with one swipe they can dispatch several enemies at once. But I
love that.
But it's smartly, right? Like, you're supposed to believe, oh wow, like, they've got it so down that they know and they can. And not that there isn't straight up choreography, like back and forth. It's just that he seems very much more concerned with some of that stuff to kind of convey the superiority of some of these warriors. And it's cool. It's super fun. Like, you get in the right mindset, and it's a blast to watch, and I totally loved both of them. So
nice.
What were you laughing at for just 1 second there?
So the name obviously was familiar to me, and I was trying to figure out why, and I'm flipping through while you were talking about some of this stuff, and she pops up in a movie that I remember seeing called Wing Chun.
That does sound familiar.
And it has Michelle Yeoh and Donnie Yen and King Tan Yun and Catherine Yun Hung and Norman Chu. There's a bunch of people in here that you will recognize.
Wow, this must be on my list. My list is so long I don't know at this point, but
Directed by Wu Ping.
oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely came across this. This is also on my list just for obvious reasons.
It's one that I actively remember because it was one of I worked with this woman at Blockbuster Video, last Blockbuster, check it out on some channel, Netflix, who was a crazy huge Jackie Chan fan, and by proxy loved Michelle Yeoh. And she was like, and she would go through and she'd hand me movies. She'd be like, oh, you got to watch this one. You got to watch this one. She was the reason I ended up watching a mass majority of the Jackie Chan stuff, like Police Story and all that, and Drunken Master and all that.
Yeah, which is, I might rewatch some of those. Drunken Master, I love, but I've seen it already, and my list is so long at this point, but it's kind of like any excuse. I might just do it. But yeah. Yes.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's it. I didn't have much to say. It all begins. This is more of a finally got to the list and checked 2 of them off. So it seemed to relate more to Mortal Kombat than other stuff. But
yeah, send me the list for sure.
Okay, all right, cool.
And if you haven't posted it, you should post it. I mean,
you're right. I should probably post it. It's so long, and I haven't vetted all of them because it's literally like I hear a movie, I put it on. So there's probably some that I could take off, certainly if I want to get through it at any point in my earthly life.
Why would you want to?
But yes, I'll send it out.
Cool.
To you, at the very least.
Well, it's all that matters.
And then you can see if you like them, also you listener and or viewer, and come back to bookclubformovies.com and or podcast at bookclubformovies.com, Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think. I know I'm going through all this for the first time, so you probably know more than me and want to tell me things about it, and I would love to hear them. So
I hope you're talking to viewers and not me, because
yes. Okay. Well, hey, no, I mean,
I've watched.
If you've got this Blockbuster thing going on, you've already
but I don't have the memory or the knowledge for that. A lot of it, like, fully admit, man, kung fu movies run together in my head, like
there's a lot.
There's a lot of them, and my dad loved them. You know what I mean? Like the ones that stand out are probably the ones that are the standouts. You know, like you're gonna know the Bruce Lee movies. You're gonna know the Jackie Chan movies. A lot of the Tony Leung movies I'll probably recognize.
I was just gonna say, if you want to know what next ones are on my list, I think. Actually, no, I still have some King Hu movies. I'm going with A Touch of Zen and Fate of Lee Khan next, which Fate of Lee Khan, not his most revered, it's definitely late era, but an early action choreo by Sammo Hung.
Ooh, so, all right. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. So yeah, those are the next 2 at some point. I don't know when.
Right on. Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear about them, and give me something to search for, because I can always go for a good kung fu flick.
Me too, it seems. So come back next week for any and all of that, and you're great.
And any and all of this.